Believe it or not, when Acrobat One was on the drawing board back in the early 90s, the developers originally didn't provide any tools for modifying the contents or structure of the PDF document. Their vision was a file format frozen at the time of creation that would reproduce and preserve the original document in all its detail and quality. Today, this concept would be inconceivable to a current user of Acrobat. While the PDF format still preserves the design and contents of the original document, Acrobat provides an array of tools to modify and manipulate the PDF file itself. In this chapter, we're going to explore a variety of ways that you can modify the basic nature of your PDF files, from moving, inserting, and deleting pages to adding headers and footers, watermarks, as well as audio and video. You'll learn how to make interactive presentations right here in Acrobat and how to permanently redact content in your PDF documents. One of the most basic features in Acrobat is the capability for manipulating the document structure by adding, removing, and rearranging its pages. In this lesson, we'll take a look at some of the ways you can manipulate the pages within a PDF file. Open the file, Move, Insert, and Replace from the Chapter 5 folder. All the commands we'll be working with in this lesson can be found in two locations: under Tools in the Pages panel, and in the Page Thumbnail navigation pane. Earlier we learned that the thumbnails can be used to navigate through your document, but the interface can do much more. Besides a quick way to move to a specific location, you can also use it to rearrange the pages in your file. For example, the first page in the file was actually intended to be the last page of the presentation. Select the page with your mouse and drag it down to a position below page 3. Notice the blue line in the navigation pane. Go ahead and release the mouse, and the selected page will now appear at the page 3 location. You can also use the thumbnails to target specific pages for other commands too. Page 4 is a business letter and doesn't belong in this presentation. Let's remove it from the file. Start by clicking on it to target the page. You can then access the delete command in several places: in the Pages panel, in the Page Thumbnails pull-down menu, by right-clicking on the thumbnail itself and choosing Delete Pages from the context menu, and simply by clicking on the thumbnail in the pane and pressing the Delete key. Click OK to delete the page. Although the commands appear in different places in the program, they all perform the same task. Unless I indicate otherwise, feel free to access these commands anywhere in the interface you think is easier or more intuitive. In most cases, I prefer to use the commands directly in the thumbnails. I find it helpful to see the page I'm trying to manipulate. But for the purpose of this lesson, I'll break my normal routine and use commands in both places. In many companies, pages for some projects are created by multiple workers and then have to be merged into one document at the end. Acrobat gives you the ability to insert one or more pages at a time from external files. If the pages you need to insert are stored in one file in consecutive order, select the command Insert from File from the Pages panel. Choose the file Insert Pages and click Select. In this dialog box, we can specify how the pages will be inserted. You can choose the location, before or after a certain page, and the page location, first, last, or a specific page in between. Let's choose before the last page and click OK. As you can see, 4 new pages were inserted in our file. In other situations, you may not want to insert all the pages from another file, or the pages aren't in consecutive order. In these cases, it's often easier to drag pages from one file to another. Open the file Drag and Drop from the Chapter 5 folder. Notice how this file contains several different pages: a slide, a page from a press release, and a full-page ad. For some reason, the slide is being stored in this file in portrait orientation. Since we don't know why this is the case, let's move it into the presentation before we rotate it. At this moment, you should have only 2 files open. If you have any other files open, go ahead and close them now. Select Window, Tile, Vertically. Acrobat should split the screen in half with the two documents as they appear side by side. Open the thumbnail panel in both files. Select the slide in the drag and drop file and drag it over to the presentation file and move it up into the page 2 position before you release the mouse. When the new page appears in the presentation file, you can go ahead and close drag and drop and maximize the master file. You'll notice that the new page appears in the presentation file in portrait mode too, but this really isn't a problem since Acrobat also allows you to rotate your pages. Select the new page and choose Rotate Pages from the drop-down menu in the Pages thumbnail panel. The Rotate Pages dialog box is one of the more powerful features of Acrobat. It allows you to rotate your pages in 90 degrees, either clockwise or counterclockwise, or 180 degrees. In this case, we want to rotate the page counterclockwise. You could choose to rotate all the pages in the file, the page selected in the Page Thumbnails panel, or a specific range of pages. You can even designate to rotate only the even or the odd pages. If the document contained landscape and portrait pages, you can even target the pages that are in landscape or portrait orientation. Since we've already selected the file in the Page Thumbnails panel, you can go ahead and leave the default settings and click OK. The presentation is almost complete, but you may have noticed that page 3 is missing a graphic. If necessary, click on the page 3 thumbnail to select it and choose the Replace command from the Pages panel. Select piechart.pdf from the Chapter 5 folder and click Select. Although this file contains only one page, Acrobat allows you to replace more than one page at a time if necessary. If you forgot to select page 3 within the Page Thumbnails panel, you can go ahead and type the number in now in these fields here. Click OK when you're ready to replace the page. Acrobat will confirm your choice. Go ahead and click Yes. The new page containing the finished pie chart should now replace page 3 completely, and when it's done, the presentation will be complete and looking good. This presentation will be uploaded to our website so visitors can download it and preview it. But before we upload the presentation to the internet, the web designers have asked us to send them a copy of the file so that they can convert the cover into a graphical button for the download page. Instead, let's use the extract command to send them the page that they asked for. Go ahead and click the Extract command in the Pages panel. When the dialog box appears, go ahead and enter the number of the page you wish to extract. In this case, the cover is page 1. You could delete the pages after extracting them, and if you choose to extract more than one page, you can extract each page as a separate file. When you're ready, go ahead and click OK. Just that quickly, we've pulled out the cover as a separate file. Let's go ahead and save it as cover. When Acrobat is finished saving it, you can go ahead and close it. As you can see, Acrobat makes it easy to add, remove, replace, and extract pages. So nothing should stop you from getting your documents to look exactly the way you want them. Acrobat provides a variety of ways to enhance the appearance of your PDF files. One such option is by adding headers and footers. This is especially handy if you're working with a PDF file that contains content from multiple sources. Open the file, headers and footers.pdf, from the Chapter 5 folder. This document contains information from two different programs. The layout is straightforward, but a little plain. For a file like this, headers and footers can spice it up a bit, as well as give it some continuity. To add headers and footers, select Tools, Pages, and select Add Header and Footer from the Header and Footer command. If you've ever added headers and footers in Excel or PowerPoint, this dialog box may look familiar. It divides up the header and footer areas into three different zones, left, center, and right, for both the top and the bottom of the page. To add a header or footer, just simply insert your cursor in the zone where you want to add your header and type the information. Let's type Vinny Totali Wines Limited in the left side and annual sales meeting in the right side. In the footer, let's add the page number by clicking this button, and the date we can put on the right side by clicking this button. As you can see, the bottom of the dialog box shows us a preview of what the header and footers will look like. Notice the simple formats of the page number and date. To add a different page and date format, you can choose this option here. Acrobat supports the standard date formats using the M, D, and Y abbreviations. A single digit will display the months as single numbers as appropriate. The same goes for the day. If you want to display a 2-digit month, then select the formats that use double digits. For the page number, you can also select more complex formats, such as page 1 of N indicating the total number of pages in the file. Let's go ahead and choose that option. If your headers and footers don't start on page 1, you can go ahead and enter the starting page number here. Click OK to finalize your choices. After you've made your changes, you'll notice that the footer hasn't changed. To update the formats, swipe over the original placeholders and insert a new one. The same goes for the date. Now you can see that the footer displays the proper information. Acrobat also allows you to format the headers and footers. Choose the font from this menu and the size from this one. You can also apply underlining as well as change the color of the text. If you click OK now, Acrobat will apply the headers and footers to all the pages of your document. If you want to apply the header and footers only to specific pages, click the Page Range option here. This allows you to choose whether the header will be applied to all the pages or a specific range of pages, or you can designate only the even pages or the odd pages. Click Cancel for now to keep the defaults. Although this dialog box allows you to apply only a single header and footer at a time, we'll show you in a few seconds how to use this dialog box to apply different headers on different pages. Before we click OK, there's one last chore. Check your margins and make sure they conform to the output capabilities of your printer. Most laser and inkjet printers can print up to 0.2 of an inch to the edge of the page. So 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom should be plenty of space. Go ahead and click OK to apply your headers. You'll see that Acrobat has applied the header to every page in the document. To make changes in the header, choose the Update command under Header and Footer. Let's add the year to the right side. Click OK to update the header. You'll see that the year has been added to all the pages now. By default, Acrobat applies the same header to every page within the file. But with a little thinking, we can use the Update command to apply custom headers to specific pages. Let's change the headers for the pages that display the product descriptions. Choose Update from the Header and Footer command. Select the text on the right side and replace it with New Product Descriptions. If you click OK now, this text will replace the headers on all the pages, but that's not what we want. We only want it to replace the text on the pages starting at page 7. To accomplish this, click the Page Range options. Select Pages From and type in the range 7 to 10 and click OK. We're almost done. There's one last thing we need to do. If you click OK now, Acrobat will replace the headers with the new text, but unfortunately it will start the page numbering at 1. To keep it numbering the pages correctly, choose the page number and date format again and set the starting page number for page 7. Click OK. Alright, now we're ready to go. So go ahead and click OK And as you can see, we've updated the header on this page to say New Product Descriptions. The page number still says 7, but if we go back to the previous pages, they still display the old header. Not only can you use this trick to create custom headers and footers on specific pages, but you can also use it on certain pages where you don't want the headers to be displayed, such as on the cover page here. To remove a header, you may think you'd want to click the Remove command, but this command removes the headers from all the pages in your entire file. Instead, choose the Update command again, delete the header text, and choose your page range options. Set the page range from 1 to 1 so that the changes will only be applied to the first page of our file. Click OK and click OK again. And as you can see, the header was removed from the first page but remains on all the rest of the pages. You won't need or want to add headers and footers to every PDF file, but it's nice to have that capability at your fingertips. Like headers and footers, backgrounds and watermarks are used to add visual appeal to PDF documents as well as to add important information. Open the file Backgrounds and Watermarks from the Chapter 5 folder. This PDF document consists of sales information and some product descriptions for an upcoming meeting, but it looks pretty generic. To give the document more of a corporate look, let's add the company logo to each page. You could convert the logo to a PDF file and manually copy and paste it to each page, but this would take a lot of time, and Acrobat doesn't provide tools to place the graphic precisely on the page. Also, items pasted into Acrobat always sit above all the other content. There's no way to control object layering like you can in InDesign, Illustrator, and even PowerPoint. A better way is to insert the logo as a background image. Using this option, Acrobat gives you precise control over both the size and the placement of the image. To add a background, select the Tools panel, Pages, and choose Add Background from the Background command. Acrobat can apply a background in two different ways: as a solid color or from an image file. Choose Browse to select the image. From this menu, you can see that Acrobat supports PDF, BMP, and JPEG files as background images. BMP and JPEG files are both pixel-based image formats. The PDF file can hold any information, but it just so happens that this particular PDF was created from Illustrator, so it's a vector-based graphic format. As you can see, the JPEG file is almost half the size of the vector format. If we insert the PDF file, it would increase the size of our file by 1.2 megabytes. So the important question to answer here is, what's the main goal of your presentation? Will the presentation be mainly displayed on the screen, or are you going to print it out and pass it out to the participants? If the presentation is mainly screen-based, then the JPEG or BMP files will do just fine. If you're printing out the file, then you should select the PDF file, which contains the Adobe Illustrator information. Acrobat imports the file and displays it at 100% of its original size. As you can see, it's a little too large to fit on the page as is. The dialog box gives you the ability to scale the image to a different size. Let's go ahead and scale it down to 30%. That's better. We can also position the graphic on the page using these commands. Let's put it at the top right edge of the page. If you're going to print the presentation, be sure to allow enough space between the edge of the graphic and the logo so that nothing gets trimmed off in the printer. Select your desired measurement system and then apply an offset. In this case, 1/4 inch should be enough to move the graphic away from the edge so that it prints properly. This dialog box also allows you to rotate the graphic as well as to control its opacity. For our purposes, let's leave this graphic at 100%. If you click OK now, the graphic will be applied as a background to all the pages in the file. By selecting the page range options, you can control the application of the background to all the pages, to a specific range, or even to the even or the odd pages. Click Cancel to keep the defaults. In the appearance options, you can also specify whether you want the logo to be used when printing, as well as displayed on the screen. Click Cancel to keep the defaults here too. Before we actually apply this background to all the pages, use these controls to preview each of the pages to see if the graphic interferes with any of the contents. Once you see that everything is fine, go ahead and click OK to apply the background to all the pages. There you go. It looks good. By default, Acrobat applies the same background to every page within the file. But if you know a simple trick, you can actually get Acrobat to apply different backgrounds to specific pages. For example, on page 1, let's move the logo to the top center of the cover page. To change this background, select Update from the background menu. As you can see, the logo is a little too big to fit at the top of the page. So let's reduce the size down to 20%. And then change its alignment from the right side to the center. That should do just fine. But if you click OK now, Acrobat will actually apply the background to all the pages. Instead, select the page range option and change the range from 1 to 10 to 1 to 1. That way, only the first page will be changed. Click OK to apply the range, and then click OK to modify the background. A dialog box will appear warning you that if you click OK, you'll be changing the background. Go ahead and click OK to accept the changes. And in a second, the logo is moved from the top right to the top center. Looks good. A watermark is similar to a background image. Like backgrounds, they're inserted and managed by a specific feature in Acrobat and can be inserted on every page of the document quickly and easily. But while a background image automatically appears behind all the content in a PDF document, a watermark can be placed either above or below the content. On the surface, background images and watermarks seem to have similar properties, but they usually serve completely different purposes. Background images are often added for visual appeal, while watermarks usually serve a more business-like function. For example, watermarks are frequently used to identify copyrighted or proprietary information. To add a watermark, choose Add Watermark from the Pages panel under Tools. Watermarks can be applied in two different ways, as text and as an image file. For this example, we'll use text. Insert your cursor into the text field and type the word confidential in all caps. In this window, you can even enter more than one line of text. Once you're done typing, you can choose the font. You can choose the size, or you can leave it at the default where it will scale to 50% of the target page. You can also change this setting if you want the text to be bigger or smaller. Let's specify the size ourselves and choose 72 points. If you want, you can type in a specific size here too. You can set the text to be underlined and choose a color other than black. If you do enter more than one line of text, you can choose how the text will be aligned, either left, center, or right. You can choose to rotate the text as well, either clockwise or counterclockwise at a 45-degree angle, or you can enter a custom angle here. The text will be applied at 100% opacity. As you can see here, it obscures the text underneath it. If you want, you can change the opacity setting here so that you can see through the text and still read the content underneath it. You can also choose to put the watermark either behind the content or leave it in front. For our purposes, let's put it in the back. Choose this option to specify whether you want the watermark to appear when you print the file, as well as on the screen. If your document contains pages of multiple sizes, choose this option to automatically position and size a watermark to maintain its consistency on all the pages of your document. Click OK to apply the settings. You can also specify where you want the watermark to appear. At the top, center, or bottom of the page, or at the left, center, and right. Let's leave this watermark in the center. If you click OK now, the watermark will be applied to every page in the file. If you choose the page range option, you can specify whether or not the watermark is applied to all the pages or a specific range of pages. You can even choose to apply the watermark to the even or the odd pages. Click Cancel to keep the defaults. Before you click OK, it's a good idea to use these controls to preview each page to make sure that the watermark isn't interfering with any of the content. Once you check each page, you can click OK to apply the watermark. As you can see, the watermark has been applied to each page in the same exact way. Let's return to the cover. By default, the watermark has been applied to every page in our file. But since the text "Confidential" already appears on the cover page, there's no need to have the watermark here as well. If you wanted to remove the watermark, you may think you could click the Remove command here. But this command actually removes the watermark from all the pages of our file. In order to remove the watermark from page 1, we'll have to trick Acrobat by using the Update command. Unlike the Headers and Footers interface, we can't select the text "Confidential" and delete it, and then click OK, because Acrobat requires us to have text in this dialog box if we click the OK button. Instead, we're going to have to play a little trick on the program. Insert your cursor into the field again, and this time insert a single space. Acrobat will allow us to click the OK button now, but if we did, it would erase the watermark from every page in the file. So instead, choose the Page Range option and set the range from 1 to 1 so that the new watermark will be applied only to page 1. Now click OK. As you can see, the watermark was removed from the cover page, but it still appears on every other page of the presentation. You probably won't have to add backgrounds and watermarks to every PDF file you use, but I frequently think of different ways I can use this feature to help spice up my documents and protect my proprietary information. The hyperlink is one of the oldest methods for including dynamic content in your PDF documents. It doesn't cost anything to add them, but vastly improves the user experience with your documents. Open the file hyperlinks.pdf from the Chapter 5 folder. Hyperlinks allow users to jump from one page to the next, or from one document to the next. You can use a hyperlink to load a web page, or even to launch another program. It's easy to add hyperlinks to your documents. In fact, depending on how you make your PDF files, some hyperlinks may be added automatically. Bookmarks, table of contents, index entries, cross-references, and URLs like the one here at the bottom of the page are all examples of hyperlinks that can be added automatically by Word, Excel, InDesign, and other programs. Hyperlinks come in two flavors: internal and external. Internal hyperlinks are used to navigate within the same document. External hyperlinks are used to jump to another PDF file, to load a web page, or to launch other programs. Hyperlinks can be applied to any type of content within the PDF file, including text, graphics and images, and buttons. In some cases, you don't even have to switch to a special tool. Just click this text selection tool and swipe over the heading New Product Review. At this moment, the text is a static subtitle in the presentation. But in just a few seconds, you can turn it into a hyperlink that will take the user to a list of new products on page 2. Right-click on the selected text and choose Create Link. In Acrobat, hyperlinks are generated by a rectangular hotspot. The hotspot can be a visible rectangle or an invisible one. If you choose visible, you can choose the line style, making it solid, dashed, or underlined. You can choose its color, and you can choose the line's thickness. In most cases, you'll want to select Invisible. Whether the hotspot is visible or invisible, you can apply a highlight style to it. A highlight style changes the graphical appearance of the hotspot when a user clicks on it. If you choose Invert, the hotspot looks as if it's reversing out in color. If you choose Outline, the rectangular boundary of the hotspot becomes visible momentarily. If you choose Inset, the area surrounded by the hotspot looks as if it's being pushed in. Go ahead and leave the highlight style as none. Once you've defined your hotspot, you can then choose what kind of a hyperlink you're going to add. You can choose whether it's going to a page view, whether it will open a file, or whether it will open a web page. Go ahead and select Go to a page view and click Next. A dialog box appears instructing you to navigate to the location where the hyperlink will take you. Navigate to page 2. A hyperlink can remember not only the page location but also the zoom factor, just like a bookmark. When you're on page 2 and you have the page displayed correctly, click Set Link. And that's all there is to it. You've just created your first hyperlink. Adding a hyperlink to an image is just as easy. Open the Content panel under Tools and select Link. Since this presentation introduces our new red wines, let's add the same hyperlink to the grapes as we did to the heading. You could use the Link tool now to draw a box around the grapes and apply the same hyperlink to this, or you could cancel out of this, select the existing hyperlink, and since it goes to the same location, we can simply copy it and paste it, and then reposition it over the top of the grapes. Reusing an existing link is a good way of speeding up the process of adding hyperlinks. If you select the text tool or the grabber hand and place it over the URL at the bottom of the page, you'll notice that a hyperlink was added to this text automatically. This could have been added in the originating program, or it could have been added by Acrobat itself. If you look under Edit, Preferences, on the Macintosh, choose Acrobat Preferences. In the General category, you'll notice under Basic Tools, there's an option for creating links from URLs. Anytime text appears in your layout that appears in the format of a URL, Acrobat will automatically convert it to a usable link. If you don't want Acrobat to create these links, you can go ahead and uncheck this now. Click Cancel to return to the defaults. Let's go to page 2 and add some more links. Here you see a list of the wines described within this document. Go ahead and use the text tool again to draw over the words Arcoli Totali. Go ahead and add a link. You'll notice that Acrobat remembers the last settings used when creating a hyperlink. If these are correct, go ahead and click Next. Navigate to page 3. Confirm this is the page for Arcoli Totali and click Set Link. You'll notice that when you use the text tool, the hotspot is applied very tightly around the text. Some users may have problems clicking on these types of links. If you want your links to be a little bit more friendly, you can make them yourself using the Link tool. There is no difference between a link created using the text selection tool or the Link tool, so go ahead and use whichever one you prefer. In this case, I'm going to draw the links starting out here by the bullet, and including Bardolino Totali. Go ahead and click Next to apply the link. Navigate to page 4 and click Set Link. You can adjust the size of your links by grabbing these handles. If you want to remove a link, simply select it and press the Delete key. Earlier we showed you how to copy and paste the link. You can also duplicate links by dragging them. In Windows, hold the Control key while you drag. On the Macintosh, hold down the Option key. Once you've created the duplicate link, double-click on it to edit it. Select the Actions tab. Notice that this link is going to page 4 as well. To edit this, click on the item in the Actions list and choose Edit. Enter page 5 and click OK. Click OK to finish the editing. So now you've seen 3 different ways of creating internal links in your layout. Go ahead and create the last link yourself. When you're finished, proceed to page 7, where we'll learn how to create a link to an external file. Go ahead and zoom out to see the whole page. On page 7 is a reference to a full page display ad. What if we added a link to this page to allow the user to open the actual document? Wouldn't that be cool? Select the Links tool and draw a box around the entire ad. I like to make my hotspots larger than the actual area. Again, make sure you choose Invisible Rectangle. In this case, we're going to open a file. Click Next and select Vinny Totali Ad from the Chapter 5 folder and click Open. This dialog box will appear, asking you to choose how you want the new file to open. Whether you want to use a setting in the Preferences dialog, use a new window, or automatically replace the document in the current window. Since the user may not know how to navigate back to our original document, let's choose New Window. That way our presentation will stay open in the background. Click OK. Now that you've added both internal and external links, let's test our links. Select the Text tool or the grabber hand and navigate back to page 1. When you place your mouse over any of the links, it will display the hyperlink icon. Click on the link. You'll notice it takes you to page 2. Return to page 1 and click on the grapes. If you put your mouse over the Vinny Totali URL and click on it, Acrobat will prompt you to either allow or block the activity. In this case, we'll just cancel. Proceed to page 2 and check out your other links. See if they all work as desired. Proceed to page 7 and try the link on the display ad. Go ahead and close the ad. See how your presentation is still open? As you can see, adding hyperlinks is easy. Later in this chapter, we'll take it up another notch and explore how to add hyperlinks to buttons to create a full-fledged navigation system for an interactive slideshow. Acrobat was originally developed to pass print-based documents between users, but people quickly adapted it to all sorts of screen-based applications too. Today, Acrobat moves easily between printer and screen. One of the most popular uses is to provide a venue for animation and video. While both technologies have come a long way in the last few years, Acrobat provides a pain-free way to put your dynamic content into the hands of your customers. Open the file, Dynamic Content, from the Chapter 5 folder. Although Flash has gotten a bad rap recently, it's still one of the most popular means of delivering animation and advanced interactivity. To add a Flash animation to this PDF file, navigate to page 8 and select Tools, Content, Multimedia, SWF. Position the mouse cursor over the top left area where you'd like to insert the Flash banner, and double-click. You can also draw a frame using the mouse cursor, but by double-clicking, the Flash animation will be inserted at its optimum size. Select Browse and choose the Vinny Totali banner from the Chapter 5 folder, and click Open. select the checkbox Show Advanced Options to modify the default settings. Under the Launch Settings tab, you can specify how you want the file to appear and to play. You can choose whether the animation will play when it's clicked, or when the page containing it is opened, or when the page is visible. In most cases, flash animations will play automatically. Let's choose the option, the page containing the content is opened. The flash animation will continue to play unless you disable it. From the Disable menu, choose Disable when the page containing the content is closed. This way, the flash animation will only play when the page is open, and when you move to another page, the flash animation will stop. You can also choose whether you play the flash animation on the page itself or in a floating window. I prefer playing it on the page. When you double-click to insert the flash file, the width and height settings are taken directly from the file and are not editable. This flash banner doesn't have a graphical border or fill color. Go ahead and choose the thin border to help define it on the screen. If the flash file contains animated objects that you wish to place over a colored background in your file, choose Transparent Background so the objects will appear as standalone elements. If you set the flash animation to play automatically, it's probably a good idea to retrieve the poster from the media. A poster is a graphic that represents the flash animation before it starts playing. If you set the animation to play only when clicked, you may want to create a poster from an independent graphic file. You can click this option and then select the file from your hard drive. Since our file is playing automatically, we can go ahead and retrieve the poster from the media. The SWF tab displays when you insert a SWF file. In this section, you can specify advanced variables. For example, choose Past Context Menu click to SWF to replace the Acrobat context menu with the context menu of the provided SWF file. That way, when the user right-clicks on the SWF animation, the context menu that appears is generated by the SWF itself. In the Flash VARs section, you can add ActionScript variables for the selected file. In the Resources tab, you'll see all the files that are required to run the SWF file. When a file is displayed in the list, you can click on it to set its properties. When you've entered the appropriate settings for your SWF file, go ahead and click OK to insert it. Depending on what settings you choose for your SWF file, it may begin to play automatically, or you may have to click on it to preview the animation. If a security warning comes up stating that the document is trying to connect to Adobe.com, click Allow. You may have to click Allow a couple of times before your SWF file plays. This animation is set to loop. It will continue to play until you disable it. Right up there in popularity with animation is video. A few years ago, Adobe revolutionized the industry when it released the Flash video format. Overnight, the conflicts and worries over incompatible formats and codecs disappeared. The FLV format has finally made it a point-and-click process to deploy your video on the internet or through your PDF files. To add a video to the PDF file, navigate to page 9 and select the Video tool from the Multimedia command. To insert a video, double-click on the screen at the upper left-hand corner where you'd like to place the video. By double-clicking, the video will come in at its optimum size. Click the Browse button and choose the Vinny Totali Wines FLV in the Chapter 5 folder. You can see what video formats Acrobat supports by opening this menu here. In most cases, other than the FLV format, most of the other videos must conform to the H.264 video format for the web. Click Open to select the file. To modify the default settings, click the checkbox for Show Advanced Options. In the Launch settings, you can specify how you want the video to appear and to play, whether you want it to play when it's clicked, or when the page containing it is opened, or when the page containing it is visible. Depending on the content, my preference is to let the video play only when the user clicks on it, especially if it has sound. There's nothing more annoying than a video playing automatically in a quiet office when you're not expecting it. The video will continue to play until it reaches the end, unless you disable it. In this menu, you can choose how the video will be disabled. You can choose whether the video will be disabled manually by the user himself, when the page is closed, or when the page is no longer visible. Typically, I like to disable the video whenever it's not visible. Next to a video that plays automatically without being clicked on, a video that continues to play after you've moved on to the next page is probably the second most annoying thing. As with the flash animation, you can choose to play the video on the page itself or in a floating window. I prefer playing the video on the page. When you double-click to insert the file, the width and the height are chosen from the file automatically and are not editable. As with the flash animation, this video doesn't contain a background color or other border. Let's go ahead and select the thin border to define the space that the video appears in. Typically in most videos, the first frame of the video is used as the poster. If this frame is blank or unacceptable, you may want to create a poster from an alternate file. In the Controls tab, select the playback controls or skins for the video. The various controls available are similar to the ones you might find on your VCR controller: play, stop, forward, rewind, seek, mute, and volume. Since this movie doesn't contain a soundtrack, we won't need the volume controls. Go ahead and select these controls here. You can choose the background color of the controls, or leave it on the default dark gray, or choose a custom color from the menu here. You can also choose the opacity settings. Select Auto Hide Controls to hide the playback controls when the mouse pointer moves off the media. In the Video tab, you can add actions to videos that contain chapter points. Chapter points are basically markers within a video that Acrobat can read and then interact with, allowing you to add advanced functionality to your PDF files. When you're finished making changes to your video settings, click OK to insert the video. Depending on the settings you choose, the video should be ready to play. Click on it to preview. If you move your mouse off the video, you'll notice that the controls fade away. To interact with the controls, put your mouse back over the video. You can pause the video as well as stop it. If you need to edit the settings applied to the video or flash files, you can do so by first selecting any of the multimedia tools and then double-clicking on the file, or by right-clicking on it and selecting Properties from the context menu. My favorite is using the Select Object tool here. It allows you to select, move, and edit most PDF components, other than text and graphics. Animation and video can take your PDF files to the next level. While these technologies continue to evolve, it's a good bet that Acrobat will always provide the tools you need to deliver dynamic content wherever you need it. Once you start adding hyperlinks and dynamic content to your PDF files, the next logical step is to create a full-fledged slideshow or presentation. Acrobat provides plenty of tools to build one, including a full-screen display mode, slide-to-slide transitions, automatic advancement, and even navigational controls. Open the file, navigation.pdf, from the Chapter 5 folder. This slideshow was built in Adobe InDesign. Like PowerPoint, InDesign offers advanced features for producing slideshows and interactive documents. In this case, we didn't add any interactive elements in InDesign, so we'll have to do all the work in Acrobat. Earlier, we added hyperlinks to this file, along with flash animation and video. The plan is to install this show on a computer kiosk and have it run in full screen mode at a trade show. To accomplish this, in this lesson, we'll add a full navigation system. Later, we'll add slide-to-slide transitions and then modify the file properties so that it will automatically open in full screen mode. The first step is to create the navigation system. Earlier, we created hyperlinks on page 1 to take the user automatically to page 2. On page 2, we created a kind of table of contents. By adding hyperlinks, we allow the user to click on the wine names to take them to the individual descriptions. But on these pages, we didn't add any hyperlinks or buttons to take the user back to the table of contents or even to page 1. Since this presentation will be displayed in full screen mode, some users will not know how to navigate through the file if they can't see the scroll bars or the other buttons in the toolbar. In a situation like this, it's a good idea to add buttons to your file to help the user move through the slides effectively. For our purposes, the navigational element will consist of 3 buttons. The first one will take the user to the next page. The second button will take them back to the previous page, and the third button will take them back to the table of contents. To create the first button, click Tools, open the Content panel, and choose the Button tool. Position your cursor in the lower left-hand corner of the page. Note the crosshairs and the sample button icon. If I click on the screen right now, Acrobat will add a button to the page the same size and shape of the button icon. To create the button, use the crosshair now to draw a button shape approximately 1/2 inch tall by 1/2 inch wide. Change the name to the word Next and press Enter. Notice how Acrobat updates the name in the button icon. To edit the button, click All Properties. I like to start in the General tab. Notice how Acrobat inserted the word Next in the name field automatically. Tooltips are used to give the user a hint at what a button or a form field will do, or to prompt a user for an action. Insert your cursor in the tooltip and type Click to go to Next Page. Make sure your button is visible and click the Appearance tab. Notice how my button has no border color and a light gray fill. Any text applied to the button will be formatted as Helvetica Bold 12 points with a black fill. To change the colors, you can click the icon like this. Let's leave the default settings the way they are for now. Click the Options tab. At the moment, the button is just a gray rectangle. But Acrobat gives you the ability to add both text and graphics to your buttons. In the Layout menu, you can choose whether the button will have text only, graphics only, or a combination of both. Let's choose Label Only for the time being. Insert your cursor in the Label field and type Next. Press Return to finish the name. You may be able to see some text appearing in your button now. To preview the button, click on the Text Selection tool or the grabber hand. Position your mouse over the button to see the tooltip. At this moment, the button doesn't do anything, but if you click on it, you can preview its behavior. Notice how each time you click on it, it reverses out the button as well as the text. Let's add a command to the button now that will advance the slideshow to the next page. To continue editing the button, you can go back to the Button tool, but I prefer using the Select Object tool. If you need to, you can use this tool to move your button around the screen or change its size by grabbing these handles. To edit the button, double-click on it. Click the Actions tab. Acrobat allows you to add all sorts of dynamic functionality to your buttons and form fields. In the Select Action menu, you can access most of the commands available within Acrobat itself, as well as the ability to access internal as well as external JavaScripts. Let's choose the command Execute a Menu Item. For each action you apply to a button or form field, you need to select a trigger. A trigger is an action that the user has to perform to execute the command. If you've ever done any dynamic web design or Flash programming, some of these triggers may look familiar. Select Mouse Up to execute the command when the user clicks on the button and releases the mouse. Since the command doesn't execute until after the user releases the mouse, the user has a chance to change their mind. Select Mouse Down to execute the command as soon as the button is clicked. Mouse Enter executes the command whenever the mouse icon passes inside the boundary of the button itself. Likewise, Mouse Exit executes the command whenever the mouse icon leaves the boundary of the button. On Focus executes the command whenever the user presses Tab to move to a form field or a button. And on Blur executes the command when the user presses Tab to move away from a form field or a button. Let's choose Mouse Up and click Add. When you click the Add button, this dialog box will open, giving you access to most of the commands within Acrobat. Let's go ahead and choose the command View Page Navigation, Next Page, and click OK. To test your button, click the Text Selection tool or the grabber hand. Acrobat should automatically navigate to the next page, in this case, page 4. Go ahead and return back to the page that holds the button. You could leave the button as a simple rectangle like it is now, spruce it up with some colors and borders. That's fine if you don't have time or if you don't know how to use a graphics program. But if you know how to use Illustrator, Photoshop, or even InDesign, you can create all sorts of cool icons to dress up your buttons and to make your navigation system sing. It's a simple task to add graphical icons to your buttons. Get the Select Object tool and double-click on the button. Click the Options tab and select Icon Only and click Choose Icon. Browse to the Chapter 5 folder and select arrows.pdf and click Open. This file contains 3 icons, one for the Next button, one for the Previous button, and one for the Home button. Select the first icon and click OK. You can create icons in any graphical program like Illustrator, Photoshop, or even InDesign. Just save the icons in individual pages and then export it all to a PDF file. After you've chosen and applied your icon, you may see the icon appearing in the button shape now. To maximize the size of the button, click Advanced. Here you can choose how the icon will appear in the button shape. You can scale it manually or click Fit to Bounds to maximize its size. Go ahead and click OK now. That's better. Once you add the icon, you won't need the background fill any longer. Go to the Appearance tab and change the fill color to None. Let's preview the button now. That's looking a lot better. But there's probably one more thing we can do. Many users will understand what this button is intuitively, but for others, they may not know what it does. So it might be a good idea to leave the label on the button itself. Let's go back to the Select Object tool and double-click on the button. In the Options tab, choose Label Over icon to turn on the label again. The text is too big to fit inside the icon, so let's change the appearance and format it to be 8 points instead. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and change the color to match the button's design. Let's choose a dark green like this one. Preview it one more time. Yeah, that's more like it. Once you've created one button, it's easy to create the rest. Get your Select Object tool and select the button. We could copy and paste the button to make duplicates, but I prefer to use Control Drag on Windows or Option Drag on the Macintosh to create the duplicate. When you release your mouse, a new button should appear. At this moment, these two buttons are identical. They have the same icon and they perform the same action. To edit the new button, double-click on it. Let's go to the General tab and change its name. Let's call it Previous and update the tooltip to say Previous Page. Click on the Options tab and change the label to Back. The word back works better since it's only 4 letters. Click Choose Icon to change the graphic to the back arrow and click OK. And finally, click the Actions tab to change the action. Click Execute a menu item and click Edit. Choose View Page Navigation Previous Page and click OK. Let's test our button. Click the back button now, and it should take you back to page 2, or the previous page. Great! Now we have 2 buttons and 1 more to go. Get the Select Object tool. It doesn't matter which button you duplicate. I'm going to go ahead and grab the previous button and Control Drag it here to the middle, Option Drag on the Macintosh to create the duplicate. If you want to constrain the movement so that it's in line with the other button, hold down the Shift key as well. Go ahead and release the mouse, and now we have our 3rd button. Double-click on it to edit it. In the General tab, change its name. Let's call it the Home button. And change the text to say, click to go to Home page. We shouldn't have to make any changes in the appearance. Let's go to Options and change the label to say Home. Go ahead and click Choose Icon and select the 3rd icon for the Home button. Under Actions, you could select Execute a menu item, click Edit to take us back to the first page, but there's no command here to take us to the table of contents on page 2. So let's cancel out of here and actually delete this command and select a different command. go to Page View. This is the same command you use for hyperlinks as well as bookmarks. Click the Add button. You may remember this dialog box from the hyperlinks lesson. Navigate to the page you want it to open in, but before you click Set Link, you should always be sure that the page is displaying at the proper size, because this kind of command remembers both the page as well as the zoom factor. Let's choose Zoom to Page Level and click Set Link. Okay, our 3 buttons are finished. Let's check them out. You can click either the text selection tool or the grabber hand. The next button should take you to the next page. The back button should take you to the previous page. And the home button should take you to the table of contents. Great. Once your last button is complete, you still need to get the navigation system onto each of the pages in the presentation. We could copy and paste them onto each page one at a time, and that would work fine, but Acrobat provides a faster way. Get your Select Object tool and select all 3 buttons by holding the Shift key. Let's cut the buttons and move to page 1. When you paste, the button should appear in the middle of the page. Go ahead and select any one of them and drag them down to the lower left-hand corner. If you look carefully, you'll notice that my buttons are a little out of alignment. I'm going to make sure that they're lined up perfectly before I paste them to all the other pages. Let's zoom in to about 400%. Switch to the grabber hand and position the page right over the top of the buttons. That's better. Get the Select Object tool and position your buttons so that they're all next to each other, just like this. You may notice that my buttons are not perfectly lined up. That's fine. There's another command in Acrobat that allows us to line up both form fields and buttons. Hold the Shift key and select all 3 icons. If there's no other buttons or form fields nearby, you can also use a marquee to select all 3 buttons. Choose which button you want to use as your master button. Notice that when I put my mouse over the buttons, the handles appear automatically. If I right-click on this icon, it becomes the master icon. Then all the other icons will move in alignment with this one. Choose Align Distributor Center and choose Align Top. All 3 buttons now are aligned perfectly horizontally, but they're not distributed evenly. One more time, right-click on the icon and choose Align Distribute and Center and choose Distribute Horizontally. Now the 3 buttons are perfectly aligned horizontally and vertically. Press Ctrl-0 in Windows or Command-0 on the Macintosh to zoom out to see the whole page. While the buttons are still selected, right-click on them one more time and choose Duplicate. We can use this dialog box to duplicate the icons on every page of our document by selecting All, or on a specific page range by choosing From, and then typing in the specific page numbers we want to copy the icons to. Let's go ahead and put them on all the pages and click OK. Navigate to the next page to see if the icons were actually placed there. You'll notice that every icon is placed perfectly on the page. Let's check them out and see if they work. Get the text tool or grabber hand. The next button should take you to the next page. The back button should take you to the previous page, and the home button should take you automatically to page 2. Now that our buttons are complete, there's one more piece of housekeeping we need to perform. Let's go back to page 1. Notice we have all 3 buttons on page 1, even though there's no page before page 1 that we can navigate to. It's a good idea to remove the back button from the first page, as well as removing the next button from the last page of our presentation. It makes the navigation system less confusing for our users. Go ahead and select the first button and delete it. Navigate to page 10. Select the next button and delete it. Whenever you create an on-screen slideshow or presentation, think of all the ways you can help users navigate through your documents. As you can see, it doesn't take long to create a powerful navigation system that can make your documents easier to use and more fun to work with. You can leave this document open and proceed to the next lesson, where we'll learn how to add page transitions and turn your interactive PDF file into a true online presentation. In the last lesson, you learned how to create an entire navigation system for an online screen show. To turn your interactive show into a true online presentation, You'll apply dynamic page transitions and save the file so that it opens automatically in full screen mode. For this lesson, you can use the completed navigation.pdf file if you still have it open, or open the file slideshow.pdf from the Chapter 5 folder. If you have any panes or toolbars still open, you can go ahead and close them. You won't need them for this lesson. And don't worry if your buttons look different than mine, as long as they work correctly. To add page transitions, open the Thumbnails panel. You can apply transitions to the pages one at a time by selecting the page within the panel and then choosing Page Transitions from the pull-down menu. You can also apply the transition to more than one page at a time if they're consecutive by holding the Shift key down, or non-consecutively by selecting them with the Control key in Windows or the Command key in the Macintosh. Page transitions can also be accessed by right-clicking on the selected pages and choosing Page Transitions. Acrobat supports 14 different page transitions. Many of them are identical to the ones in PowerPoint, and if you save your files from PowerPoint using the PDF Maker, Acrobat will honor the transitions if they're the same. To select a transition, simply click it in the list. Some transitions will have more than one setting, like horizontal or vertical, as well as speed. Others may only have one. All the transitions can be set to auto flip, which allows you to create a self-running demo that you can run independently. If you choose to have your slides auto flip, be sure you give your users enough time to see all the contents of your slides. You'll want to give them enough time to read the text on the slides, but not too much so that they get bored. For our purposes, we'll manually advance our slides, so let's shut off autoflip. You can also apply the transitions to all the pages in the document, or only the pages selected within the Pages panel, or to a specific page range. You can also choose Random, which will play the transitions in no specific order and may not even repeat them the same way twice. Some transitions look better at fast speed, while others look better at slow speed. To pick the correct speed for each transition, I recommend testing each of them before you use them. Go ahead and select your favorite transition now. I'm going to choose Fade and set the speed at which you want it to play. I think Fade looks best at slow speed. We're going to go ahead and apply the transition to all the pages at the same time and click OK. The page transitions only work in full screen mode. To access full screen mode, select View, Full Screen Mode. Now advance your pages using your buttons. Beautiful. Notice how the Home button will take you back to the table of contents, and the Back button will take you back to page 1, or the previous page. To exit full screen mode, press the Escape key. Once you've selected your favorite transition and tested it, it's time to save your file so that it will open automatically in full screen mode. To do this, select File, Properties, and choose Initial View. For a slideshow, you always want it to open in page-only mode, in single-page layout, at a magnification that will fit the entire page. Make sure it opens to page 1, and then choose the option Open in Full Screen Mode. Click OK to apply the changes, and save your file as a PDF and name it myslideshow.pdf and click the Save button when you're ready. To test it, close the file and then open it again. You can use the link in the recent file list. Acrobat will prompt you to open in full screen mode. Click Yes. Now your interactive slideshow is a full-fledged online presentation. When you get to the display ad, go ahead and click on it to test the new link. You'll notice that the ad opens in a full screen mode, but there's no way to get back to the presentation. A knowledgeable user may know how to close this file by pressing Ctrl-W in Windows or Command-W in the Macintosh, but we really need to add a button to this page to allow the user to return back to the slideshow. Go ahead and press Escape to get out of full screen mode. To add a button to the full page ad, select View, Tools, Content, and select the Button tool. Position your mouse in an area of the ad where you want to place the button. Let's place it in the lower left-hand corner here. Draw a large button and name it Close. Press Return to finish the name and click All Properties. Let's include a tooltip. Click to close the file and return to show. Click on the Appearance tab and let's choose a different color. Let's try this orange. In Options, insert your cursor in the Label field and type Close and Return. Press Return to observe the text within the button. Make sure the layout says Label Only. Select Actions and choose Execute a Menu Item and click Add. Choose the command File Close and click OK. Select the Text tool to test your button and click the button. Acrobat will ask you if you want to save the file. Make sure you say yes, or otherwise you'll lose the changes. Now let's test the whole process one more time. Select View, Full Screen Mode. Click on the display ad. The ad should open in full screen mode, and then you can click the Close and Return button to return to the online presentation. Click Next to proceed to the web banner page. Notice how it plays automatically as soon as the page is visible. Go ahead and press Next to go to the video page and test your video. If you take your mouse off the video, you'll notice that the control skin fades away. Once you see the whole video, proceed to the last page of our slideshow. So what do you think? Now you've seen a few of the ways that you can trick out your PDF file to create a true interactive presentation. Can you think of some items you'd include? In these last few lessons, we've only scratched the surface of all the possibilities. Acrobat was designed from the beginning as a vehicle for portable documents. The PDF format was the final destination, a dead-end street. Acrobat was never intended as a document creation or editing system. But over the years, it has evolved and developed and gotten new tools and capabilities. If your document needs major revisions, you'll still need to go back to the originating application. But for small changes or tweaks here and there, Acrobat should fill the bill. Open the file, Edit Contents.pdf from the Chapter 5 folder. This document was created by a professional designer and is nearly ready for printing. But there was a small typo in the wine name, and your boss wants the tagline moved down to the bottom of the page, and the company logo moved up. You could send it back to the designer and have them make the changes, but your boss doesn't want to incur any more charges. Sound familiar? Let's see what we can do ourselves. Acrobat has the ability to manipulate both text and graphical elements. You can't do everything you want to do, but in a pinch, you can frequently take care of a specific issue. To fix the typo, click Tools, then open the Contents panel. Select the Edit Document Text tool and swipe over the error. Before you try to fix or re-enter any type, you should check to see if you have the font necessary to make the changes. Place your mouse over the text and right-click and choose Properties. Acrobat will warn you if the original font is not available. Click OK. In this case, the original font was Arial Bold MT. We don't have that particular version of Arial on our computer, but we do have a version of Arial. We'll take a chance and assume that both versions are identical, or nearly so. Click Close, and go ahead and retype the letters as CO instead of OC. If you don't have the exact font, Acrobat will try to find a font in your system that's a close match, and try to maintain the size and spacing of the original font. You may end up having to use a completely different font, so be careful. The change may not be acceptable. In some cases, Acrobat may not let you make the change at all. To move the tagline, we'll use the Edit Object tool. This tool gives you a limited amount of editing capabilities. You can pick up objects and move them. You can scale an object bigger or smaller. But you can't rotate it or perform other transformations inside of Acrobat that you would be able to perform in a graphics program like Illustrator or Photoshop. There's also no commands for grouping and ungrouping objects, and you can't change an object's stacking order within a layer except by a simple trick using copy and paste. If I move this bottle of wine over here, you'll notice that the red wine is higher in the stacking order than the white wine. To change their positions, I can select the white wine, cut it into memory, and then paste it. When it returns to the layout, it will be in front of the red wine, but it's also in front of all the other text. Let's undo all those changes. Press Ctrl Z until the red wine returns to its original location. To move the tagline, click on it to select it. In some cases, text will be treated as individual lines, and in others, you may find that two pieces of text are actually in one box. Go ahead and grab the tagline now and move it down to the bottom of the page. If you click on the logo, you'll discover that it's made up of hundreds of tiny graphical elements that are not grouped or locked together in any way. So this is where you have to be very careful about how you select the logo. I'm going to start outside the logo and draw a marquee across all the elements within the logo itself. Before you move it, make sure the selection area completely surrounds the logo and doesn't surround any other objects. Now you can move the logo up. As you're moving it up, you'll notice that you can move it left and right, side to side. If you want to constrain the movement, hold down the Shift key as well, and it will only move vertically or horizontally, but not both. When you get it in the position that you want, go ahead and release it. Make sure you check to see if you've left any parts of the logo behind. If everything is good, go ahead and select the tagline now and move it back into the layout to an appropriate place. Although Acrobat has the tools and capabilities to edit both text and graphical objects within your PDF files, I typically leave these tools untouched except in dire emergencies. When there's no time to send the project back to the originator, or perhaps you've even lost the original file. That's because Acrobat's tools are more suited to small changes. If a file needs severe changes, then there's an alternative, but it requires the industrial strength of another Adobe program, Adobe Illustrator. If I don't have access to the original file, or the program that created the PDF file, I often use Illustrator to fix the problems and get the job done. If you own Illustrator, go ahead and follow along. Otherwise, just sit back and watch. Acrobat is closely tied to Illustrator. Many aspects of your PDF file are based on or similar to the graphics model of Illustrator itself. For example, let's say we want to change the color of the two black bars at the top and the bottom of the layout. Acrobat has no built-in capability to change these. But if you have Illustrator installed on your computer, the change is only a click away. Using the Edit Object tool, select the top bar. Right-click on it and select Properties. You'll notice that there are no options in this dialog box for changing the color of the object itself. The Color tab is actually designed to change the color model from CMYK to another model such as Adobe RGB, but not to change the individual color itself. Go ahead and close the dialog box and right-click on the bar again. Now, for those of you on a Mac, the following may not work exactly the same way as it does for Windows users. So I recommend that you just watch along for the next minute or so. I'll then show you a way that this will work the same on both operating systems. This time, select the Edit Object command here. A dialog box will open indicating that the PDF tags have to be removed for you to edit this object in another program. If this is acceptable, go ahead and click Yes. Another dialog box appears indicating that the changes made outside of Acrobat may look differently than the ones already in the file. Again, if this is acceptable, go ahead and click Yes. In a second, Acrobat will pass the graphical bar over to Illustrator, and you'll be able to select it here and change it. Let's go ahead and add 100% magenta, 100% yellow, and 20% black. When you're done, close the file. Save the changes and switch back to Acrobat. You'll notice that the bar has been updated in the layout. Now I'll show you a way to change the bar that will work the same on the Mac as it does in Windows. You can continue to edit objects one at a time like this, or to get the most from Illustrator, you can actually open the PDF file itself. To be able to save your changes, you'll have to close the file in Acrobat first, though. Let's save the file as a PDF and name the file My Edit Contents in the Chapter 5 folder. Click Save, and then close it. Switch back to Illustrator and open the file. On the Macintosh, if you don't have the font, you may get a warning. For this example, go ahead and click OK to use the substitute font. When you open a PDF file, there's a possibility that there may be more than one color model contained in the file. This is fine for a PDF file, but Illustrator can only support one color model at a time. Choose your preferred color model now and click OK. Since this job is destined for a printing press, let's keep the color model as CMYK. At first, the contents of the file won't be editable. If you click on it, you'll notice that you're going to select the entire layout. But if you double-click on the layout, Illustrator will break into the layer and then allow you access to the text and graphics. Go and select the bottom bar and make it the same color as the top. It's 100% magenta, 100% yellow, and 20% black. You might need to change your color window in Illustrator over to CMYK if you see RGB colors by clicking on the Options button in the upper right of the color window and then selecting CMYK. For those of you who couldn't change the top bar earlier, you can change it now following the same steps. Select the bar and change the magenta, yellow, and black values to 100, 100, and 20. But all is not perfect. The text may be difficult or impossible to edit. If you don't have the actual fonts that were used, the text may switch to fonts in your own system. This is the most dangerous part of opening the file. You'll notice that most of the text is no longer displayed as paragraphs, but as single lines. If you need to replace more than a few words, you'll probably have to retype all the text from scratch. Graphics will appear and print correctly, but editing them may be difficult too. The one saving grace in using Illustrator is that you have a world-class graphics program at your fingertips that can rebuild the layout completely if necessary. When you're done editing the file, choose Save As and save the document in the PDF format. You can save over the original file like I'm doing, or change its name to preserve the original PDF file. When you click Yes to save over the original PDF file, this dialog box appears, allowing you to select the type of PDF file you'd like to create. By using the Illustrator default settings, you will maximize the quality and editability of the PDF file. In effect, you'll be saving the Illustrator file with a PDF extension. The resulting file will appear and perform like any PDF file, but it will include an entire graphics layer that can be accessed and edited by Illustrator at a later date. It won't affect the PDF file in Acrobat, but gives you additional capabilities in Illustrator if you need to open it again. Close the file and switch back to Acrobat. To reopen the file, you can click on the link in the recent file list. And so you can see with very little trouble at all, we opened our PDF file in Illustrator, made the changes we needed to make, and then saved it back as a PDF file. Whether you use Acrobat or Illustrator to make the changes in a file, remember that this is not a recommended workflow. The best choice when changes are needed is always to go back to the program that originally created the PDF document. It's your best shot at preserving the contents at the highest possible quality. How many times have you opened a file and wondered, is this the correct file? Or, is this the most current version of the file? Or, what changes were made in this file? As documents go through multiple revisions and are passed back and forth in a workgroup, this ebb and flow can get confusing and potentially dangerous. The wrong file may end up being sent to your customers, or worse, to your boss. Acrobat provides a tool that can automatically compare two PDF files and tell you how they differ. It can pick up very subtle differences between documents and identify them. Open the files, compare new, and compare old from the Chapter 5 folder. When the files open, select Window, Tile, vertically. Zoom each window to the page level. If you have any panels or other files open, go ahead and close them. When the documents appear side by side like this, it's easier to pick out some of the differences, but I wouldn't be surprised if you missed a couple. You may see the obvious things, such as the logo being moved up in the page and the new tagline being added to the bottom of the file. But did you notice the typo here in the name of the wine? Or the fact that this paragraph was shifted over? You may see these differences now, but would you see them in a busy workflow? To have Acrobat compare the files, select View, Compare Documents. In the Older Document menu, choose Compare Old.pdf. If necessary, choose Compare New from the Newer Document pull-down menu. If the documents have more than one page, you can indicate what pages you want to compare, starting with the first page and the last page of each file. Then you should select a document description. Each method has its weaknesses and strengths. One may pick up graphical changes while the other will pick up most of the text changes. I like to run the report multiple times to make sure that all the changes were identified. I always start with the scan document description first. This picks up subtle differences between the actual graphical objects on the page. You can also choose to compare the text only within the file. Let's click OK to run the first report. Acrobat scans the two documents and then generates a new window that contains the report. Go ahead and maximize the report window and zoom out to the width of the page. Here you can see first of all that Acrobat did identify some changes between the two documents. There's a hyperlink to take you to the first page and a key that indicates the colors being used in the report. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first page. Note the areas highlighted in red. You'll see a note attached to each area identifying the changes. Notice the color legend up here, indicating what kinds of changes there are. Blue indicates insert, red indicates delete, orange indicates replacement, and light blue indicates the fact that something has been moved. If you click on the highlighted areas, Acrobat will open a display window showing you side by side the before and the after. You can clearly see here how the text has been moved. Click on the logo to see how it's been shifted up on the page and the new tagline has been added. Click on Bianco to see how the text has been altered. Once you've identified the graphical changes, I like to run the report again to see a clear indication of what happened to the text and other elements on the page. Make sure that old and new are in the right locations. This time choose a different description. In this case, the magazine layout would probably work best. Click OK. A new report is generated and opens in its own window. Go ahead and zoom out to see the width of the page. And then jump to the changes. Here you can see how Acrobat identifies the changes to the text in a much clearer way. If you hold your mouse over the text Bianco, you can see that originally it was spelled Biannock. Best of both worlds is indicated in blue, indicating that the text has been inserted. Depending on the colors used in your layout, you may want to change the highlighting colors. You can access those under Options. Choose a different color palette to work better with your layout, or create one of your own. You can also select what elements Acrobat will look for during a report. If you want to see changes in formatting, select this option, or annotations added during a comment and review cycle. To hide the options, click the checkbox. Were you able to catch all the changes in these two documents? Hey, it's easy to miss the small differences between the two files. But why take the chance? When your job may be on the line, let Acrobat put another set of eyes to work for you. Many PDF documents contain sensitive information: private phone numbers, social security numbers, compensation rates, items that you don't want to release to the wrong person or to the general public. In some cases, you could delete the data, but for legal purposes, often you can't remove it because it would alter the structure and flow of the remaining text and data. The look of the document would be changed, which may be prohibited by law. Instead of deleting the information, you could redact it. You may never have heard of that word before, but you know what redaction looks like. If you've ever seen government documents released to the public with certain passages in the text blacked out, that's redaction. In Acrobat, redacted text is unreadable, uneditable, unsearchable, unselectable, and uncopyable, if that's a word. But while redaction renders the text unusable, it doesn't alter the underlying design and layout. Open the file redact.pdf from the Chapter 5 folder. Redaction has come a long way since it was added to Acrobat. In the early days, you were instructed to cover up the redacted text with rectangular markup and then save the file as individual TIFF images. Luckily, you don't have to jump through that convoluted hoop anymore. Today, Acrobat has a full set of powerful redaction tools and capabilities built right in. To access these tools, select Tools and Protection. Using these tools, you can redact text, graphics, and even whole pages. Once redacted, the information cannot be recovered, so it's important that you review the highlighted copy before applying the redaction. You should also make sure that you save the document under a different name so that you keep a copy of the unredacted file. Acrobat will even help you with that. Choose Edit, Preferences. On the Macintosh, choose Acrobat Preferences. Click the Document category and look for the checkbox in the Redaction section. This checkbox forces Acrobat to append the file name with the word redacted when you save the file. If you want to enter your own word here, go ahead and do it now. When you're done, click OK to apply the changes. The redacted info is covered by rectangular boxes. By default, they are black. But if you want to save ink or toner, you could change the color and other default settings by clicking on Redaction Properties here in the Protection panel. To change the color, click this icon. You can save a lot of ink and toner by just simply choosing a light gray or white. Let's choose light gray. Some users may not understand why certain areas of your document are blanked out. In that case, you can apply overlay text to the redacted areas. You can use custom text for your overlay, or choose redaction code from an existing U.S. law or regulation. Acrobat comes equipped with the U.S. FOIA and Privacy Act codes. To select one of these codes, simply select the code set and choose one of the specific code elements, and then choose Add Selected Entry. You can also click here to edit the codes. You can add a new set or remove one, or rename it. You can import a set from your hard drive or export a modified set to share with coworkers. As the laws change, you can add new codes or remove them, or rename them. Click Cancel to return to the dialog box. For our lesson, we'll use some custom text. Choose Custom Text and insert your cursor here and enter the text Redacted by Law. Once the text is entered, you can also format it. You can choose the typeface. By default, it will auto-size to fill the entire area. You can uncheck this and set your own font size here. You can also set the text to repeat automatically, or by unchecking it to appear only once. You can set the text to align to the left side, center, or right side of the redacted section. And you can also choose the font color. Let's leave it set for white. In this dialog, not only can you format and customize the final appearance of the redacted area, you can also change the redaction markup appearance as well. By default, the markup appears with a red outline. You can go ahead and choose another color now if you like. You can also add a fill color. Depending on the color you choose, you might want to set the opacity of the fill color to be less than 100%. Click on the General tab. The General tab shows you what author name and subject will be applied to each of your comments. You can't change the author name here. We'll show you how to change that later. But for the subject, we can go ahead and add our custom text, redacted by law. Now review your changes before you click OK. And click OK to apply the settings. The first thing we'll do is redact a whole page. Open the Page Thumbnails navigation panel and click on Page 1. Then choose Mark Pages to Redact. By default, this dialog box applies the redaction to the page that's currently displayed in the document window. No matter how many pages you have selected in the page thumbnails, only one page will be redacted. If you want to redact more than one page, choose this option. To enter a page range, swipe over the text here and enter the page range starting with the first page number, followed by a hyphen, and then enter the last page number in the range. To enter pages out of sequence, enter them as you would in the print dialog box by using commas and individual numbers. For the purpose of this lesson, we'll only redact the first page. Select Mark Current Page for Redaction and click OK. When your mouse appears over a redacted area, Acrobat will preview what the final redaction will look like. When you move your mouse away, you'll see the redaction markup. Navigate to page 2 where we'll learn how to redact text. Click the zoom out to the page width so we can see the whole page. To mark text for redaction, choose this tool. A dialog box will appear explaining the steps necessary for redacting text. It's a two-step process, starting with marking up the text and then applying the redaction later. The dialog box also warns you that the redactions are not permanent until you apply the redactions. Click OK to dismiss the dialog box. To redact a word, double-click on it. To redact an entire sentence, swipe over it. You can do the same for a paragraph. Before the redaction is applied permanently, you can remove it. To remove a redaction, place your mouse over the redacted area and click on it to select it, and press the Delete key. You might be thinking that redacting text by hand could take a while, and you're right. This is a process you probably don't want to rush through. But Acrobat provides some tools to speed up the process. You can actually search and redact words and phrases automatically. To search and redact, click Search and Remove Text here in the Protection panel. A dialog box appears warning you that the search and replace technique will only find actual text within your document. It won't find words and phrases within photographs or graphics, or within certain hidden areas of your document. Click OK to dismiss the dialog box. The search window will open. If it's overlapping the document window in any way, go ahead and click the Arrange Window button here. This dialog box works identically to the normal Advanced Search panel that we reviewed earlier. To search for a single word, click inside this field and type the word. Let's look for the word photograph. Click Search and Redact. Acrobat will find all the occurrences of the word and any derivations of the word. You'll notice that it found the word photographic, photographs, as well as the word photograph. If a word has already been redacted, you'll see an X next to it, as we see here. To mark a word for redaction, you can go ahead and click the checkbox. To mark them all, click Check All. To apply the redaction, go ahead and click Mark Checked Results for Redaction. And they all appear redacted now in the layout. Click New Search. You can also search for multiple words and phrases. Click Select Words. In this dialog box, we can enter multiple words and phrases. Enter the word bitmap.
and raster. You can also import a list that you've made previously, or export one that you've already created to share with coworkers or to use later. You can also mark the selection for selecting for whole word only and for case sensitivity. Click OK, and in a second, the entire layout is now marked up with the selected words. Acrobat even provides the capability for redacting based on patterns. Using this method, you can find elements in your file that are phone numbers, credit card numbers, social security numbers, email addresses, and dates. When you're done searching your document for redacted terms, go ahead and close the search window. Acrobat also has the ability to mark photos and graphics for redaction. Navigate to page 6, where we'll learn how to redact this image. Select the Mark for Redaction tool again. Click OK to dismiss the dialog box. To redact this image, position your mouse over the image until you see a crosshair. You'll notice that when your mouse moves away from the image, it becomes the text selection tool again. In order to create the redaction for images or graphics, you must see the crosshair. Position the crosshair above and outside of the image and draw a redaction frame over the top of the image, covering all the areas you want redacted. If you make a mistake, just select the redaction area, delete it, and try again. Once you're done marking up your document, you must apply the redactions. This can be a tense moment because the process is permanent and irreversible. Go through the document and check it carefully, and make sure all the redactions are in place and ready to go. You may even want to save the file as is so that you can revert back to the saved version in case there are any changes you need to make. Well, cross your fingers and let's click Apply Redactions. A dialog box appears warning you that applying redactions is a permanent process and can't be undone. Click OK. If the redactions are applied successfully, this dialog box will appear. The process you just completed will redact all visible text and graphics in your layout. But the information that you're redacting may actually appear elsewhere in your document in hidden areas or in the document metadata. If you'd like to remove that information now, go ahead and click Yes. In a second, Acrobat will search the document and display a report here on the left side. If you want, you can open up the report and review each item. Here you can see the word photograph appears multiple times in the document metadata. To remove all this information, you can click the Remove command. If there's any item that you don't want removed, you can go ahead and uncheck it within this panel. Click Remove. Another dialog box appears indicating that other things will be removed besides the redacted information, including signatures, extensions, and other document information applied by third-party applications. If this is acceptable, go ahead and click OK. When it's done, the text and graphics that you redacted will be completely wiped from this document. We can even test it to see if it actually worked. Press Ctrl F on Windows or Command F on the Macintosh to open the Find window. Or you can right-click anywhere in the document window and select Find from the context-sensitive menu. Type the word photograph and press Enter or Return to search for the text. You'll notice that the word photograph can't be found in your document. I also indicated earlier that text that's been redacted cannot be selected or copied or pasted. Depending on how the redaction was applied, in some cases your page may have been turned into a graphic, like here on page 2. Navigate to page 3. Notice the headline here. It used to say Basic Rules for Bitmapped Images. Swipe over the text and copy it. Now, launch a program like Notepad or TextEdit and paste the text. Notice that the word bitmapped will not appear in your pasted copy. As you can see, the redaction process not only blanked out the text on the screen so it can't be read, it also can't be searched or selected or reused by anybody opening this document. Redaction may be a time-consuming and tedious process, but when sending out documents that contain potentially confidential or sensitive material, it's better to be safe than sorry. The time will be well spent if it saves you from embarrassment or a potential lawsuit.